For countless millennia, long before the first human foot ever touched its shores, Bermuda existed as a silent, isolated world. It was a volcanic peak that rose from the deep Atlantic, crowned over time by layers of limestone and coral. This remote archipelago, a mere speck in the vast expanse of the ocean, was a kingdom of nature. Dense forests of Bermuda cedar and palmetto palms covered the rolling hills, creating a lush green canopy that swayed in the ocean breeze. Its famous pink-sanded beaches were not formed from rock, but from the crushed shells of tiny marine creatures called red foraminifera, a remarkable testament to the slow, patient artistry of the natural world. Life here was a delicate, intricate web, woven in complete isolation from the rest of the planet. The island's only native land vertebrate was a small, unassuming lizard, the Bermuda rock skink, which scurried among the limestone crags. Above, the skies were filled with the cries of seabirds. Great flocks of cahos, or Bermuda petrels, nested here in their thousands, their eerie nocturnal calls filling the night air. This sound, combined with the squealing of wild hogs descended from animals left by passing sailors, led early mariners to give the islands a rather forbidding name, the Isle of Devils. It was a place of mystery, shrouded in tales of strange noises and treacherous reefs that could tear a ship apart. For centuries, this reputation kept humanity at a distance, preserving its unique, untouched ecosystem. It was the Spanish mariner Juan de Bermudez who first charted these islands around the year 1505. He was sailing back to Spain from the New World when he spotted the lonely archipelago. While he claimed it for the Spanish crown, he never dared to land. The formidable coral reefs that encircled the islands, so vital for creating the calm, turquoise lagoons, were also a deadly trap for the wooden ships of that era. Bermudez and other sailors who followed him wisely kept their distance, marking the islands on their maps as a navigational hazard to be avoided at all costs. The devils of the island, both real and imagined, continued to hold sway over this small corner of the world. So Bermuda remained, uninhabited by people, a wild sanctuary governed by the rhythms of the tide and the seasons. It served as a landmark for sailors crossing the treacherous Atlantic, a place noted on maps but left to its own devices. Its incredible story was yet to begin, waiting for a dramatic and entirely accidental turn of events that would forever alter its destiny. The island's long, quiet slumber was about to be interrupted by the arrival of a species that would change its landscape, its ecology, and its very character in ways that no one could have possibly imagined. The stage was set for a remarkable transformation from a feared wilderness into a human home. The year was 1609, and a fleet of English ships was making its way across the Atlantic, bound for the struggling colony of Jamestown in Virginia. Their flagship, the Sea Venture, carried supplies, new settlers, and the colony's new leadership. But the ocean is a powerful and unpredictable force. A ferocious hurricane, one of the violent storms that churn the Atlantic, descended upon the fleet, scattering the ships. For 3 days, the crew of the Sea Venture battled the tempest, the ship groaning under the strain of the wind and waves. Water poured in through its timbers, and all hope seemed lost. The vessel was, by all accounts, sinking and beyond saving. Just as the exhausted crew and passengers prepared for the end, Admiral Sir George Somers, who was at the helm, spotted land. It was the dreaded Isle of Devils. In a final, desperate act of seamanship, he intentionally steered the foundering Sea Venture towards the coastline, wedging it firmly between two large rocks of the reef. Miraculously, all 150 people aboard, along with one dog, made it safely to shore. They had not landed on a barren rock, but in a land of plenty. They found fresh water, abundant fish and turtles, and forests teeming with wild hogs and birds. This feared island of demons had in fact become their salvation, a most unexpected and welcome sanctuary. For the next 10 months, these castaways made Bermuda their home. They were resourceful and resilient, using their skills to survive and eventually to thrive. They salvaged what they could from the wreck of the Sea Venture and, remarkably, used the native Bermuda cedarwood to build 2 new, smaller ships, which they named the Deliverance and the Patience. During their time on the island, they mapped its coastline, documented its flora and fauna, and learned its secrets. Stories from this incredible ordeal of shipwreck and survival, carried back to England, are widely believed to have inspired William Shakespeare's famous play, The Tempest, with its themes of a magical island, a storm, and castaways. In May 1610, the survivors set sail in their newly built vessels and completed their journey to Jamestown, where they found the colonists in a desperate state of starvation. The supplies and leadership they brought from Bermuda were instrumental in saving the Virginia colony from collapse. The tale of their survival and the glowing reports of Bermuda's hospitable environment captivated England. The Virginia Company, which had sponsored the original voyage, saw a new opportunity. In 1612, they sent a ship, the Plough, with around 60 settlers, to officially claim and colonize Bermuda, establishing the town of St. George, which stands today as one of the oldest continuous English settlements in the New World. The early years of the Bermuda colony were a period of great hope and equally great struggle. The new settlers, under the governance of the Bermuda Company, a spin-off from the Virginia Company, initially tried to build an economy based on agriculture. They cleared the land and planted tobacco, hoping to replicate the immense success of the crop in Virginia. However, the soil in Bermuda, while fertile enough for subsistence, was not suited for large-scale tobacco farming. The crops were often of poor quality and could not compete with those grown in the Americas. This agricultural disappointment forced the islanders to look for other means of survival and prosperity. The true wealth of Bermuda, the settlers soon discovered, was not in its soil, but in its surrounding waters and its magnificent cedar forests. The Bermuda cedar was a remarkable tree. Its wood was strong, light, and wonderfully resistant to rot and shipworms, making it the perfect material for shipbuilding. Bermudians became master shipwrights, constructing fast and nimble sloops that were highly sought after across the Atlantic. This pivot from land to sea marked a defining moment in the island's history. Bermuda transformed into a maritime society, its economy driven by shipbuilding, salt trading from the Caribbean, and intercolonial commerce. The sea was in their blood. This maritime focus shaped every aspect of life on the island. Families owned shares in ships, and the men of Bermuda became renowned sailors, known for their skill and their daring. They sailed their sloops to the West Indies and the American colonies, trading goods and establishing vital economic links. However, this life was not without its perils. The sea that provided their livelihood could also be a source of great sorrow, with many men lost to storms or shipwrecks. The island's strategic location also made it a valuable base for privateering, a form of legalized piracy where privately owned ships were authorized by the government to attack enemy vessels during times of war, a profitable but dangerous enterprise. As the 18th century progressed, Bermuda's relationship with both Britain and the American colonies grew more complex. During the American Revolutionary War, the island faced a difficult choice. Its economy was deeply intertwined with the colonies, yet it remained under British rule. In a famous and daring episode, Bermudians sympathetic to the American cause secretly supplied gunpowder from a St. George's magazine to the Continental Army in exchange for food supplies. This event highlighted the islanders' practical and independent spirit. They were loyal to the crown, but they were also pragmatists, driven by the necessity of survival in their isolated Atlantic outpost. The story of Bermuda's development cannot be told without acknowledging the dark and painful chapter of slavery. From the very earliest days of settlement, enslaved people were brought to the island, primarily from Africa, and also through the capture of Native Americans. Unlike the large plantation economies of the American South or the Caribbean, Bermuda's small size and maritime focus created a different, though no less brutal, system of bondage. Enslaved individuals were not typically used in vast agricultural gangs, but worked in a variety of roles, as domestic servants, skilled artisans, boat pilots, sailors, and shipbuilders. Their forced labor was integral to building the ships and running the maritime trade that defined the colony. Life for the enslaved in Bermuda was harsh and fraught with cruelty. Families were often separated, and the law offered them virtually no protection or rights. They were considered property, subject to the whims of their enslavers. Despite these oppressive conditions, enslaved Bermudians developed a resilient and distinct culture, blending African traditions with Christian influences and the realities of island life. They resisted their bondage in numerous ways, from acts of daily defiance and running away to carefully planned conspiracies and uprisings, which were met with severe and violent retribution from the ruling class. Their enduring spirit in the face of such profound injustice is a powerful part of the island's heritage. the global movement to abolish slavery eventually reached Bermuda's shores. In 1834, the British Parliament passed the Slavery Abolition Act, bringing an end to the institution of slavery throughout most of the British Empire. On August 1st of that year, thousands of enslaved people in Bermuda were granted their freedom. This moment of emancipation was a monumental turning point, but it was not the end of the struggle for equality. The newly freed Bermudians faced a society where economic power and land ownership remained firmly in the hands of the white elite. They were free, but they were not yet equal, and the path forward would be long and challenging. In the decades following emancipation, Black Bermudians worked to build new lives and communities. They established their own churches, which became vital centers of social and political life, and friendly societies, which provided mutual support and financial assistance. They fought for educational opportunities and the right to vote, slowly and painstakingly challenging the deeply entrenched racial hierarchy. This period laid the groundwork for the long civil rights struggle of the 20th century. The legacy of slavery and the subsequent fight for justice and equality have profoundly shaped Bermuda's social fabric, and the journey toward a truly equitable society continues to this day. Bermuda's strategic position in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean did not go unnoticed by the British Empire. Following the loss of its ports in the newly independent United States of America, Britain sought a new naval stronghold to command the Western Atlantic. Bermuda was the perfect candidate. Beginning in the early 19th century, a massive construction project began on the island's west end. Thousands of laborers, including enslaved people and later convicts from Britain, toiled to build the Royal Naval Dockyard. It was an immense undertaking, a fortress of stone and iron designed to service, supply, and protect the powerful British fleet. This project transformed the western parishes and cemented Bermuda's role as the Gibraltar of the West. The dockyard became the heart of British military power in the region for over a century. During the American Civil War, it served as a crucial base for Confederate blockade runners, who would slip past the Union naval cordon to trade cotton for European goods and military supplies. St. George's bustled with spies, smugglers, and adventurers, a brief but intense period of intrigue and profit for the island. The military presence brought a steady flow of money and people to Bermuda, creating jobs and shaping the social landscape. The sight of Royal Navy warships in the Great Sound became a familiar part of island life, a constant reminder of Bermuda's importance to the empire. The 20th century brought new global conflicts, and Bermuda's strategic value only increased. During both World War I and World War II, the island served as a vital transatlantic convoy assembly point. It was a place where merchant ships could gather under the protection of naval escorts before making the dangerous crossing to Europe. In World War II, this role expanded dramatically. Under the Destroyers for Bases agreement with the United States, Britain granted the U.S. a 99-year lease to build naval and air bases on the island. This led to a massive new construction boom, as American forces dredged parts of the Great Sound and connected islands to create land for an airfield, which is now the island's international airport. The American military presence continued long after the war, making Bermuda a key intelligence and anti-submarine warfare post during the Cold War. For decades, the U.S. bases were a major feature of the island, employing thousands of Bermudians and injecting huge amounts of money into the local economy. This created a unique cultural dynamic, with British colonial traditions coexisting alongside a significant American influence. The eventual closure of the British and American bases in the 1990s marked the end of an era, forcing Bermuda to once again reinvent itself and find new pillars to support its economy as the age of military fortresses gave way to a new globalized world. As the era of military dominance began to wane in the early 20th century, Bermuda discovered a new and far more peaceful way to capitalize on its natural assets: tourism. The island's breathtaking beauty, with its pink sand beaches, crystal-clear turquoise waters, and charming pastel-colored cottages, was a powerful attraction. Improved steamship travel made the journey from North America faster and more comfortable, and Bermuda began to market itself as an exclusive and tranquil getaway for wealthy Americans and Britons seeking to escape harsh winters. Grand hotels were built, and the island cultivated an image of refined elegance and leisurely sporting life, from sailing and tennis to golf. This burgeoning tourism industry became the primary engine of Bermuda's economy for much of the 20th century. It created jobs in hotels, restaurants, and transportation, and it shaped the island's development, with a strong emphasis on preserving the natural beauty that visitors came to see. Strict building codes were put in place to maintain the unique architectural style, and the decision to ban rental cars has helped preserve the island's peaceful, unhurried atmosphere. Tourism brought prosperity, but it also made the economy heavily dependent on the whims of international travel and the economic health of other nations, a vulnerability that would become apparent over time. Alongside the growth of tourism, Bermuda was undergoing a profound political evolution. The 20th century was marked by a growing movement for greater democracy and civil rights, led by the island's black population. The old system, where political power was held by a small, wealthy white oligarchy, was challenged. Following years of activism, a new constitution was granted in 1968, which introduced universal adult suffrage and a system of responsible self-government, with a locally elected parliament managing most domestic affairs. This was a monumental step towards a more democratic and equitable society, giving Bermudians a greater say in their own destiny while remaining a British overseas territory. In the latter part of the 20th century, as tourism faced increasing competition, Bermuda once again demonstrated its remarkable ability to adapt. The island's leaders astutely cultivated a new economic pillar: international business, particularly in the fields of insurance and reinsurance. By offering a stable political environment, a reputable legal system, and favorable tax laws, Bermuda attracted major global companies. This sector grew rapidly, overtaking tourism to become the dominant force in the economy. Today, Bermuda is a sophisticated global financial center, a modern marvel of economic reinvention. Its unique story, from uninhabited isle to naval fortress, from tranquil resort to financial powerhouse, is a powerful lesson in resilience, adaptation, and the enduring spirit of an island people.